The United States has thrown the world into disarray by slapping an enormous 245% tariff on Chinese goods, all in an effort to protect American industries. Now, over 2 million shipping containers are stuck at China's biggest ports, Shanghai and Guangdong, causing major trade bottlenecks and driving up prices on everything from smartphones to clothing. But this isn't just a policy change. It's the beginning of a full-blown crisis, and American consumers are already feeling the heat. But wait, China isn't staying silent. Its counterattack could make everything worse. America may have fired the first shot with its 245% tariff, but China has returned fire, and with force. Beijing is now shutting down crucial trade routes with the United States, disrupting commerce worth around $500 billion. This is no symbolic gesture. It's a calculated response that's rattling the global economy and putting pressure directly on American industries. Beijing kicked off its retaliation by hitting one of America's biggest companies, Boeing. China told its airlines to stop accepting Boeing aircraft, grounding more than 130 planes and tearing up billion-dollar contracts. As a result, Boeing's stock took a nosedive, and now over 140,000 American jobs are hanging in the balance. It's more than just lost revenue. This is a blow to America's technological leadership and economic pride. And China isn't stopping there. Major Chinese ports like Shanghai and Guangdong are now either rejecting American cargo ships or forcing them through endless inspections. What used to be smooth trade routes are now blocked by red tape. For U.S. exporters, this isn't just a delay. It's a strategic chokehold on their ability to access one of the world's biggest markets. More than 2 million containers are still stuck, and the backlog keeps growing. American companies are scrambling for solutions, but few options remain. In a further blow, China has introduced its own retaliatory tariffs, targeting a wide range of American goods. Farmers who once exported billions in soybeans and corn to China are watching their market disappear. Manufacturers of everything from construction equipment to packaged foods are feeling the pain, as Chinese buyers start turning to suppliers in Europe and South America instead. These tariffs are not random. They are carefully aimed to strike industries that create millions of American jobs and drive national growth. The impact of China's retaliation is now spreading beyond agriculture and aviation. Tech companies that rely on Chinese-made components for laptops and medical equipment are facing delays and rising costs. Energy firms are reporting stalled projects with Asian partners, while logistics companies are dealing with frozen shipping routes. The damage is snowballing, affecting small businesses, workers, and supply chains across the entire United States economy. Even Wall Street is feeling it. The Dow Jones plunged 1,200 points in a single day as investors prepare for a prolonged trade war. This isn't an emotional reaction from China. It's a well-planned power move. Beijing is showing the world what it means to control global supply chains, and it's making it clear that the U.S. will pay a steep price for its tariffs. Analysts warn that the fallout could cost the U.S. hundreds of billions every year in lost trade inflation, reduced investments, and mass layoffs. According to Goldman Sachs, if tensions escalate, we could see $200 to $400 billion wiped from U.S. market values. The threat of a full economic decoupling between the two biggest economies on Earth is real, and its effects could last for decades. This economic pain isn't spread evenly. It's hitting America's industrial heart, its factories, farms, and export sectors. As the crisis deepens, major U.S. companies are preparing for the worst. Meanwhile, regular Americans are already starting to feel the pinch. The fallout from America's 245% tariff on Chinese goods is slamming some of the nation's biggest companies. Firms that once thrived on global trade are now dealing with blocked supply chains and exploding costs. Amazon, Five Below, and Boeing are just a few of the corporations feeling the pressure. Each is struggling with disruptions that are slashing profits and threatening the jobs of thousands. And these aren't just corporate hiccups. They mark a growing economic storm that's shaking the very foundation of America's economy. Even Amazon, the online retail giant, has had to cancel orders worth hundreds of millions of dollars. Amazon has long depended on Chinese suppliers to keep costs low on electronics, clothes, and household items. But now, with tariffs driving up import prices and more than 2 million shipping containers stuck at Chinese ports like Shanghai, its once smooth supply chain is falling apart. Shelves that should be full of things like headphones, phone chargers, or holiday decorations are now either empty or carrying price tags that make shoppers wince. Five Below, known for its cheap and cheerful products, is feeling the pressure too. The company has canceled orders for toys, electronics, and seasonal goods, leaving stores struggling to meet demand. These aren't just small changes. Retailers like Five Below are being hit hard. With rising tariffs and blocked ports, they simply can't keep up. The effect is clear. American shoppers are now paying 5 to 15% more for everyday items. Families already on tight budgets are feeling the squeeze. Retailers warn that unless trade with China stabilizes, they'll have no choice but to raise prices further. And this isn't about luxury goods. This is about essentials like clothes, kitchen appliances, and household basics. That means millions of people are losing buying power. You can see it in shopping malls and at online checkouts. Frustration is growing as more products disappear or become too expensive. Meanwhile, Boeing is dealing with a much bigger problem. The company used to sell about 15% of its commercial planes to China. Now, those sales have stopped. Over 130 planes, some already painted in Chinese airline colors, are stuck in U.S. factories with no one to buy them. This freeze has cost Boeing billions in lost revenue. In one day alone, the company's stock fell 8%. The blow threatens not just Boeing's profits, but also its entire supply chain, from engine manufacturers to small component makers. If production slows, up to 140,000 aerospace jobs could be in danger. Boeing's trouble goes beyond business. The company is a key symbol of American innovation and defense. Its downfall weakens America's position in the global market. China's decision to turn toward Airbus and its own C-919 aircraft is a clear move to reshape the future of aviation. If Boeing continues to lose ground in Asia, it could give up its leadership in technology, a loss that could take decades to fix. This isn't just one company's problem. It's a serious blow to a nation known for engineering excellence. This crisis shows how fragile America's global trade setup has become. Companies like Amazon and Five Below built their business models on low-cost Chinese goods. Boeing relied on international markets for growth. But now, with trade routes shut down, companies are scrambling. Some are looking to Vietnam or India for new suppliers. But those countries can't match China's size or speed. Moving supply chains elsewhere is expensive and takes years. Right now, companies are watching profits shrink and facing hard decisions, like cutting jobs or raising prices. The chaos is also shaking up the stock market. Retail and aerospace shares have taken major hits. Investors are on edge. JP Morgan analysts say that if trade tensions continue, there's a 60% chance the United States could fall into a recession by 2025. It's not just about losses today. It's about what the future looks like if companies scale back, innovation slows, and jobs disappear. America's place in the global economy is at risk. For everyday Americans, this is hitting close to home. Empty shelves at Five Below or late Amazon deliveries are more than small annoyances. They're signs of a bigger shift in how we shop and live. Boeing employees in places like Washington and South Carolina are already facing job cuts. These aren't just big corporations. They're employers, innovators, and part of local communities. What happens to them affects millions of lives. Here's the irony. The tariffs were meant to protect American businesses, but instead, they've exposed just how vulnerable those businesses really are. By targeting China, the United States triggered a backlash that's hitting its own industries the hardest. Smaller retailers who can't compete with Amazon are going out of business. Boeing suppliers are slashing budgets just to stay open. The pain is spreading, and it's not just limited to executives and CEOs. Now, the auto industry is feeling the shock too. Supply chain issues, port delays, and rising tariffs have stalled the flow of car parts, especially key items like batteries and sensors. This has stopped production at factories owned by General Motors and Ford. New car prices are up 10%, hurting consumers and putting auto workers' jobs at risk. This problem is spreading fast, and it's nowhere near over. The backbone of the U.S. economy, something called the just-in-time delivery system, is collapsing. For years, this system helped businesses save money by having parts and goods arrive exactly when they were needed, avoiding storage costs. But with ports blocked and tensions rising, that system no longer works. The impact is being felt everywhere, from warehouses to store shelves to family budgets. Shipping nightmare. This all started when major Chinese ports like Shanghai and Guangdong began cutting off trade with the United States. Now, more than 2 million containers are stuck. Ships that once docked in a few days now wait weeks, and some are even turned away completely. This shipping bottleneck has pushed the cost of transporting a single container from Asia to the U.S. from around $2,000 to a jaw-dropping $20,000 in some cases. For businesses already hurting from tariffs, This tenfold increase is a financial nightmare they simply can't avoid. Retailers and manufacturers are feeling the pressure. Companies that depend on fast shipments to keep their shelves full, with clothes, electronics, or furniture, are now stuck with empty warehouses or severe delays. The holiday season, a crucial time for many retailers, is at risk. Products aren't arriving on time, and stores are scrambling to fill orders. Customers are seeing empty shelves where their favorite items used to be. From kitchen gadgets to kids' toys, everyday products are either missing or come with shockingly high price tags. This isn't just a problem for businesses. It's hitting millions of American families. The ripple effects are reaching far and wide. Warehouses in major cities like Los Angeles and Chicago are packed with goods that can't be moved quickly, causing huge backlogs in the distribution process. Trucking companies report hours-long delays at the ports, and rail systems are struggling to keep up with the flow of cargo. This domino effect is shaking the confidence of businesses that rely on quick deliveries to stay competitive. Small retailers, in particular, are taking the hardest hits. Unlike large corporations, they don't have the cash to pay sky-high shipping fees or stockpile inventory. Many now face the threat of shutting down and laying off workers. For everyday Americans, the impact is impossible to miss. Prices for basic goods, like clothing and electronics, have jumped 5 to 15% compared to just a few months ago. Grocery bills are also rising as it becomes more expensive to get food from farms to stores. But it's not just about shortages. The real issue is a delivery system that's no longer working properly. Families are being forced to stretch their budgets just to cover the basics, with low-income households being hit the hardest. The dream of affordable shopping, once a cornerstone of American life, is slipping away. This crisis has exposed a much deeper weakness in the U.S. economy. The just-in-time delivery model was built on the belief that global trade would remain stable, with China playing a dependable role. But that trust has been shaken. Now businesses are facing risks they never planned for. Rebuilding this fragile system will take years and cost billions. It will require new shipping routes, better port infrastructure, and retraining a new workforce. But none of these solutions are immediate. In the short term, companies have a tough decision: absorb the rising costs or pass them on to consumers, leading to even more inflation. And it's not just America feeling the strain. The collapse of just-in-time delivery is sending shockwaves through global trade networks from Asia to Europe and beyond. Countries that depend on U.S. imports like Canada and Mexico are also at risk of facing shortages and price hikes. Since global commerce is so interconnected, a problem in one region affects economies everywhere. This uncertainty is already being reflected in the stock market. Shares of logistics and retail companies are dropping as investors prepare for a long stretch of economic instability. Experts warn that this isn't just a passing issue. Even if trade tensions settle, the broken trust that held global shipping together won't be easy to repair. Fixing it will take international cooperation and massive coordination. For now, American businesses are stuck in a cycle of higher costs and fewer choices. Meanwhile, regular consumers are paying the price for a system that's clearly in chaos. This economic fallout is changing daily life, from delivery delays to higher costs on store shelves. It's a powerful reminder that America's comfort and prosperity rely heavily on international cooperation. As families tighten their belts, the pressure is mounting on national leaders to solve the crisis. But things may get worse before they get better. To make matters even harder, Washington has rolled out a new policy that could add more pressure to businesses and consumers already stretched to the limit. The U.S. government has shut down a tax loophole that allowed goods under $800 to enter tariff-free. Now, new duties are being applied, even to small items like screws and chargers, raising costs for both businesses and everyday consumers. This move is adding fuel to the ongoing trade conflict, pushing many companies to rethink where they get their products from. As the U.S. China trade war intensifies, major American firms are scrambling to avoid the fallout from blocked trade routes and soaring tariffs. Giants like Amazon, Walmart, and General Motors are pulling back from China, reworking their supply chains towards Southeast Asia, India, and Mexico. This isn't just a small tweak, it's a massive overhaul of global trade, and it comes with serious risks for American jobs and the long-term health of the U.S. economy. Amazon, the biggest online retailer in the world, is making big changes by sourcing more of its products from countries like Vietnam and India. These countries offer growing industrial bases and younger labor forces, making them attractive substitutes to China's once dominant factories. Walmart, America's largest private employer, is doing the same. It's expanding its supplier base to include Thailand, Indonesia, and Bangladesh. Their mission: keep prices stable and store shelves full, even with shipping delays and rising tariffs. For automakers like General Motors, Mexico offers a strategic advantage due to its closeness to the United States. It's becoming the top choice for assembling vehicles and sourcing parts, helping avoid the massive costs of transporting goods across the Pacific Ocean. This shift isn't optional, it's a response to crisis. With over 2 million containers stranded at Chinese ports and shipping costs skyrocketing from $2,000 to as high as $20,000 per container, relying on China has become a financial risk many companies can't afford. The tariffs that were meant to shield U.S. industries are now forcing companies to dismantle long-established supply chains. Southeast Asia's cheaper labor and India's growing manufacturing sector are offering some relief. Meanwhile, Mexico's trade deals with the U.S. help speed up delivery times. But this transition is anything but easy, and the costs are already starting to show. One of the biggest concerns is the potential loss of U.S. jobs. General Motors has already warned that moving production to Mexico and South Asia could eliminate up to 14,000 American jobs, from factory line workers to warehouse and transport staff. That's especially painful for regions like Michigan and Ohio, where many families rely on factory wages for a stable life. And GM isn't alone. Experts say the broader auto industry could lose up to 50,000 U.S. jobs if more manufacturers follow suit. Retailers like Amazon and Walmart, while not heavily invested in American manufacturing, are still cutting back on domestic warehousing and distribution jobs as they simplify operations overseas. It's not just the big names feeling the pressure. Smaller suppliers who depend on contracts with major retailers are at risk too. As production moves abroad, these local businesses, whether they provide packaging, small components, or support services, are losing their top clients. Many don't have the resources to compete globally or to shift operations offshore. Without new contracts, they face shutdowns. In towns where these businesses are the economic backbone, the ripple effects could be devastating, closing local shops and straining public services. Shifting supply chains isn't a quick fix. Building new facilities, hiring and training workers, and meeting product standards in countries like Vietnam or India requires years of effort and billions in investment. These countries, while promising, are not yet at China's level. Vietnam's ports, for example, can only handle a small share of what Shanghai does, causing new delays. India faces frequent power shortages and bureaucratic red tape, which slow down production. Companies are pouring money into solving these challenges, and the result is clear. Consumers are now paying higher prices. But beyond the cost, there's a bigger concern. The United States could be weakening its own industrial foundation by sending production overseas. This shift isn't just economic, it's a threat to national security. Once factories in the United States shut down, they may never reopen, leaving the country more reliant on foreign suppliers. That kind of dependence can become dangerous during emergencies, whether it's another pandemic or rising global conflicts. At home, the loss of factory jobs has fueled anger and frustration. We've seen this in the more than 1,300 protests across the country, where people are demanding answers and action on trade policies. Americans were promised protection, but many now feel betrayed as their jobs disappear. Internationally, this shift is redefining trade relationships. Countries in Southeast Asia are jumping in, working hard to attract U.S. companies, giving their economies a boost while China loses ground. India is stepping up as a growing manufacturing competitor. Meanwhile, Mexico is tightening its trade ties with the U.S. There's a harsh irony here. A policy meant to bring jobs home is pushing them abroad. Instead of revitalizing U.S. manufacturing, tariffs are driving companies to cheaper alternatives overseas. While U.S. businesses scramble to adjust, China is making bold moves. By limiting exports of rare earth materials, critical for electric vehicles and electronics, China is slowing down companies like Tesla, causing tech production delays and raising prices for U.S. consumers. This trade battle is pushing the U.S. and China closer to an economic divorce, one with massive consequences. If all ties are cut, the financial damage would be huge and felt in every American household. Experts say it could lead to a national crisis. Donald Trump's 25% tariff on Chinese imports was supposed to strengthen America. Instead, it may have caused a $500 billion disaster. Blocked supply routes, soaring prices, and job cuts are now the reality for many families and small businesses. In the end, the policy meant to protect Americans ended up hurting the very people it promised to help, from stalled shipping containers to grounded aircraft. Can the U.S. learn from this costly mistake? The answer lies in making better choices going forward, rebuilding trust, and creating smarter policies before the damage becomes irreversible.